All right, guys, welcome back to Logan Journey, and now you are here for another Diary of a Wimpy Kid related video. Now, you know my upcoming project, Diary of Wimpy, hit the final touch. Oh, it's going to be one of the greatest stories I've ever made. Although, in order to make sure that I get this story perfect, I had to go back and reread the book that started it all. Yes. And the thing that I like about this story is just that it takes place in middle school, which I honestly like because it's just a wimpy kid. It's just wimpy. Feels like a wimpy kid kind of deal. And welcome to my review of Diary of a Wimpy Kid #1. Now, I feel like this story is written by Greg. I like this story because it's such a classic. I just feel like this is Wimpy Kid, and as I'm reading through the story, he talks about a lot of different topics. For example, the Halloween chase scene with like Pete Holmesy and his like goons tried to take Rowley and Greg and try to like hurt them. Like we saw that in the movie, and like I don't think that's something you could really expect nowadays on Halloween. Although Greg, I can understand. He tries and fails, and he tries and fails over and over, just trying to make things right with Rowley. Like, at a moment in time, like, Rowley got suspended from safety patrol, and Greg feels bad for him. And so he decided to tell Rowley the honest truth about what happened with the kindergartners, although Rowley does not take it so well. Instead, he just goes with another friend named Colin. And yeah, that's what I saw Greg try and fail again and again. But also, one of the things that I really liked was the Wizard of Oz, scenes in it, because like I could see how Greg didn't want to be in this play. His mom was forcing him to be in this play, and he was trying out to be the Wicked Witch of the West because he knows that Patty Farrell, his arch enemy, is playing Dorothy, and he knows that the Wicked Witch in the movie does bad things to Dorothy. And just to make sure that the people at school participating in the play get it right, the music instructor made them rewatch the Wizard of Oz film, and then Greg decided he wanted to be a tree because the trees get to throw apples at Dorothy. And so Greg was like, hey, if I'm the tree, I get to throw apples at Patty. Although, when he found out, they didn't let them throw apples. And so they didn't have arms. So they were just a tree, no arms. Although, one of the trees fell down on the guy playing the bush. And then they were like, perhaps we should cut out some armholes. And by the time the play came around, when Greg and the trees went on, Manny pointed at Greg and was like, Bubby! Although Greg had to say something to make sure that he's not Bubby. So he says to the other tree, I think you dropped an apple, Bubby. And then at the moment, he saw Roderick recording him with a camera. And so Greg decided if he wants Roderick to show it to all of his friends as an embarrassment, Greg decided not to sing until the other tree saw Greg wasn't singing, and then they stopped singing. And then Greg saw Patty backstage frowning, and so he plunked an apple at her, and then the play was canceled. So Greg doesn't have to be embarrassed in front of over 100 or 600 people. So I just feel like that alone is one of my favorite parts of the story. And also, one of my other favorite parts is when he tries to be the new cartoonist for the school paper. Although, it turns out Greg was the one that came up with this whole Zooey Mama idea. And then Rowley was like, we should make a story about Zooey Mama. Although Greg said, why don't you just do your own comic and I come up with my own thing? So we came up with a thing called Cretin the Cretin. And it turns out he won. Although in the story they changed the comic. They made it seem like a whole math problem. And then it turns out Rowley took Greg's spotlight and Zooey Mama became the new cartoonist for the school paper. And so, yeah, this book just feels like it's written by Greg. And that's what I like about it. Because I just like wimpy kids stories when they're wimpy. Although, Diary of Wimpy Kid, the final touch, Greg's going to be a little less wimpy. And a little bit more serious, trying to take down the cheese. The cheese touch. This is the main antagonist in the story. And it's also the main antagonist in my story. Greg and his companions are going to take the cheese touch down.